Welcome to another Gaslec podcast. I'm your host Sean here for this week's episode. Here live here from Gaslec Towers, or the office in the historic city of Rochester, as I like to call it, or Strood, as the postman likes to call it as well. So there we are. So I want to talk about radiators. So the technical term for all this is heat emitters. So it doesn't matter what the fuel source is, whether you use an air source heat pump, electric boilers, gas boilers, oil boilers, LPG boilers, whatever your source of energy is, to get it from that part, from the device, the box, whatever it be, to actually physically heating your home, we use some sort of heat emitter. So the main types really for this topic of this discussion are underfloor heating, which is normally like a wet water system, goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and goes back via a pump. So that's called underfloor system, or we can use radiators. And that's the bit I want to talk about today on this week's show. So we're doing this as a video podcast for those on YouTube. There's going to be nothing being displayed and stuff like that. So it's just me rattling on with a set of headphones, really. So you're not going to miss out on anything if you listen to this on an only audio platform. So I've got some notes down here because I want to make sure I'm accurate. So I've been looking at, we have this time of year, we get a lot of people doing renovations to their homes. So they're doing the bathroom, the bedroom, the whole house, whatever they're doing, which is great for draining down the heating system. You don't want to do that in November, December, and be without heating in your home whilst you're living there for the next 2 or 3 days. So a lot of people do it this time of year, do full change of the radiators and stuff. So then we go in and then we resize the radiators, make sure they're the correct size to the rooms, the pipe centres, where they're being positioned and stuff like that. And then we start looking at the heat source, what the flow temperature is going to be. Are they using a conventional sort of gas boiler? And we have to take considerations about low temperature heat design as well. But just for a sake of this conversation, just a couple of things here I want to go through. So this is just off the Screwfix website, which is just probably just for the pretty easiest way just to get some facts and figures for you. So there's 4 sort of sizes of radiators really. You've got type 11, type 21, type 22, type 23. Now some companies call these P1, K1, K2, P+. But when we start using the 11, 21, 22, 23, it's actually a lot more easier to understand. So if you can imagine 11 isn't 11, it's a 1 and 1. So you've got the panel that you see in front of you, which is the wavy panel. That's called the panel. And then on the back of that, you've got the reflector. And that goes up and down, like a little weavy piece of metal. And what that does is that takes the heat and gives it a bigger surface area to dissipate into the room. So when you've got 11, that's 1 and 1. And when you've got a 21, you've got 2 panels and a single convector on the inside, which is the as it's going up and down. Sorry, I just got a notification there from the computer. Hopefully it hasn't come out on the recording. Obviously, this is just a live, so the phone might ring, the door might open, the postman might turn up. So I do apologise if it does happen. And then a type 22 is when you've got 2 and a 2. So you've got 2 panels and the 2 sets of these convectors on the back of the radiator, and then you can see those, which gives you even more heat output. And then a type 23. Personally, I've never done one, so a 23, actually it should be called a 32, to be honest, because it's got 3 panels and 2 lots of convectors on the inside. So that gives even more heat output. They are chunky monkey. They are massive. And I'd be concerned about the water content, the weight of the radiator, and the amount of water and the weight for the wall that it's going to be secured on. Now, they do little support brackets which come from the floor and come up to the bottom of the radiator on little Allen keys, and you just lock them off. So I'll be more inclined to think about some sort of support if we're a little bit touch and go on walls, certainly if they're stud walls and we've got no real good fixing behind. But yeah, so just a thought. So we'll talk about the first 3, 11, 21 and 22. So what people don't realise, or they may have realised, but I'm going to point out here. So if we've got a 1200 by 600 type 11 radiator, and then we upgrade that to a type 21, so we get a little bit more heat output. Actually, it's not a little bit more. It's just over 40% more on the Screwfix calculations. This is for a 1200 by 600 radiator for their Flowmaster range. So just got some figures off the internet just to talk about it. And then if you went from a type 11 to a type 22, we've got 80% more heat output. So you're really jumping up. So it's only the depth that changes. So the actual physical size of the width and the height doesn't change. The pipe centers away from the wall do, because the thing's physically deeper. But we can gain a lot more heat going into the rooms. Now, I think, and I did have a look on the Screwfix data for the radiators, and they didn't say what flow temperature that was for. So I presume that would be for our sort of 65 degree high temperature flow calculations for those heat outputs on the radiators. So, you know, the Type 22 is given 2051 watts of heat, so just over 2 kilowatts of heat coming out of the radiator and into your room. You lower the flow temperature down from 65 to 55, and that physically will be less heat coming out of that radiator. So when we start looking at lower flow temperatures, that's then we have to then start increasing the size of the radiators and the outputs. So typically you'll start looking at going from a 11 and 21 up to your 22s. I've seen 23s in houses, and they do look absolutely massive. You know, if they're behind a settee, it really holds a chair off and stuff like that. But you know, put a chair in front of it, you're stifling the heat, because the heat wants to radiate at the front as well as radiating up. It wants to radiate at the front of the radiator. So you just start doing that sort of thing. You start stifling stuff up. And now I spoke with customers before when we're doing bathroom radiators, the towel rads. I always ask them, "Oh, what do you want? Do you want, you know, anthracites or whites or chromes?" Most people go for chrome as a finish for their radiators because they look nice and sparkly. Once again, I looked up on the internet. It was a 1600 by 600 flat towel radiator from Screwfix, 2 identical models, but one in the white finish, one in the chrome finish. And the one in the white finish is 47% more heat output than the chrome version. So the chrome version's 554 watts and the white version's 816. So if you start thinking about, and this is another thing I'll talk about when we're doing bathroom radiators. So you go and put the chrome one in there because it looks nice with your towel rail holder and your rings and your toilet brush thingamabobs and all that. It looks great, awesome. You've only got 554 watts of heating that is going into that room. Now, I know bathrooms aren't living rooms, and we're only there for sort of a purpose without going into the nuts and bolts of what we do in bathrooms. And we come in, we come back out again. No, I don't mind coming out of the shower and being freezing cold. Actually, I quite like that. The wife absolutely detests it, but you know, I don't mind that cold feeling of coming out of the shower from a warm shower and sort of like almost like air drying off. But a lot of people don't. They want a warm bathroom. So then we get our 1600, so it's quite a tall one, by 600 wide. Can't really get much wider than that, to be honest. And we put that towel radiator into bathroom, giving us 554 watts of energy into a bathroom. Now, we've been running the shower or a bath, we're going to have a bit of heat coming off of that. You know, we take that in consideration. But there's not a lot of heat. And then what do we do with it? We cover them in towels to dry them off. So then we're stifling the heat. So out of the 554, all the centre bars then get covered in towels. So you really only got the 2 side bits coming out. So as a bathroom heater, it's not very good. As a towel warmer and dryer, great, fantastic. So just bear that in mind when we're fitting bathrooms, that we get a lot of people saying, my bathroom's cold. Now, the traditional towel radiators, that almost like the Victorian type, with the big chrome bars that go from the floor up and over, and then they've got like a white sort of, like the old school radiators, sort of design in the centre. Now, the idea is that the bar comes slightly forwards on the top, and you can put your towels over that, but it doesn't go onto the main radiator. Now, they do have a very large water content on those radiators, come in different sizes and different heights. And they don't have a lot of surface area to emit heat, but they are a lot better than normal conventional towel radiators as we know them. And that exactly the same goes, I've got no figures for it, for the column radiators, the fancy, the designers, as they call them, designer column radiators, they have in sort of lounges and hallways, which are quite tall, normally about 2 meters, and they'll be single, double, or triple. Now, I always then, sorry about that. I always recommend going for the triples, but once again, they are so heavy. We've had them at 75 kilo, dry, these triples, 2-person lift and some, and then trying to get, they've got fiddly little brackets on them, and trying to get the brackets on the wall with a decent fixing. Once again, they do little brackets that come off the floor to support the weight of them, because you're going to need it, because time you fill that up with water, you're up in the 80, 90 kilos, which is a lot of weight, and it's a lot of weight to fall off as well. And that then hits the floor, damage the floor, God forbid, there's someone underneath it as well, and that's going to cause some serious injury. And if it's hot, as you know, if it's in full winter mode, we're at full heat, we're running at 60 degrees, and imagine that comes down on top of you and you're pinned down, you can't get out of it, and it's burning you. So always bear that in mind, and I always talk about that with clients as well. You know, what's the wall behind, considering the weight of the radiator, and it, you know, ultimately just doing a risk assessment. You know, what's the area it's going into and stuff like that. If you've got small children, want to swing off it and play with it and climb on it and stuff like that. I've seen that happen. You know, that will weaken the fixings, and just to keep an eye on that as you go on. So yeah, so that's all I really want to talk about this week. Really, talk about radiators and the different outputs and the considerations for them. And certainly this time of year, it is summertime radiator season, which is ironic really, but just getting all those improvements done in your home. So hopefully it's helped give you a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of insight into rads. So yeah, fantastic, awesome. So I'm trying to think of various different things here at the same time. So apologies for that. I don't like to do loads of edits on the stuff. Yeah, this is who I am. This is how I speak. So I don't want to try and be a radio presenter or any DJ, that sort of stuff. Smash it nicely, which is hilarious. But yeah, just try and be a bit of me, really. So there we are with that. If you've got any questions at all you want answered, email us at podcast@gaslec.net. If you want to come onto the show and be a guest, I've had loads of people say, yeah, I'll come on. When it actually comes to it, a bunch of scaredy cats. What's there to be scared? It's only Sean. We come here. I've got a kettle behind me. We'll have a cup of tea. We'll get the recording on, and then we'll just have a chat. And you know, if your subject that your knowledge area that you know can help our listeners. We do have a lot of listeners in America and dotted around the world. Obviously, we've got our UK stuff and dotted around the UK as well, which is when I see the stats and all the dots around the world and stuff like that, you're like, who in Vietnam wants to listen to me rattle on about radiators? But there is someone in Vietnam over that way just listening to me, which is a bit flattering, really. But yeah, coming from a local plumbing-based business, you know, based in the Medway towns, we go out a little bit further, but we're sort of based here in Kent, to suddenly reaching people in Scotland and Wales and, you know, into Europe and Germany. I think there was one person in Russia listening to us as well, which is great, which is fantastic. So, yeah, it's just a bit of a change of mindset, really. So there we are. So if you've got any questions, give us an email and we'll get them answered. Not a problem at all. But thank you very much indeed for listening. And if you're watching on the YouTube, thank you very much indeed for watching. As you can see, I've brushed my hair today. I've made a bit of an effort. So there we are. But okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful summer. If you're having any holidays, I hope you have a lovely time. Hope the weather's good for you, whatever you want. Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.